main role in, like, the X-Men community. I think it would be really funny to see a Deadpool, like, Wolverine, like, kind of, like, go at, like, almost like Civil War and just have them fighting the whole time and have it just be ridiculous. That would be fun. But I think that's the most main role I would ever want to see him in an X-Men movie, is just have him and Wolverine just messing around and stuff like that.
Yeah, and to your case in point, they actually did have Deadpool in one of the X-Men movies. I can't remember which one it was, but he played Ryan Reynolds. Yeah.
It was the one where, that. I think it was Logan, or not Logan, the Wolverine origin or something, where Ryan Reynolds was in it as Wade Wilson. I'm not even going to call him Deadpool, he's Wade Wilson in that. That was atrocious.
Yeah, from what I heard, it's not a pretty sight, especially considering that, it seemed like he was playing a little bit more of a serious role than playing the quirky role or having the, red suit that we've come to, see. Hopefully they can do it. So bottom line with X-Men, hopefully they can start getting on the right track, and maybe they could start, slowly building up some of these new characters instead of just, jamming everybody down our throats where it's like, okay, well, we just got to introduce this new character here, but, oh, look, you're introducing 3 more characters. Oh, lovely. So we have more to keep up with. That just seems more like a headache than anything.
Yeah, I agree. I think if they took the time to kind of build up the characters with their own solo movies, it might be worth it. I mean, there's definitely some characters that could hold their own. Like, I know they were flirting with the idea of a Gambit movie. I don't know if Gambit is still happening, but, I mean, he's a really interesting, fun character. Very likable. Everybody likes Gambit. You could do a movie on it.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see. So before we get too far into it, are there any other movies or franchises that got sold off during the Marvel crisis that happened?
There probably was, but I don't have, like, a list in front of me right now. But
okay.
Yeah, during the time when comic books were kind of how people view violent video games, they had a time in the 70s and 80s where it's like comic books were making this violent happen. Kids are being violent because they're reading these violent comic books that are killing people and beating people up. So there was a big, like, depression in the comic book community where, they just weren't selling, so the rights to the characters had to go.
Okay.
And Marvel really got hit hard in that.
Okay, I definitely wanted to double check on that before getting too far into it, because then I'm going to go into one that might be a little bit of an argument, but we'll see. Let's go into Thor. Because here's the thing. The first Thor movie was pretty good. The second one I watched, and throughout it, I think I was more confused than anything because I did not understand the story. It was great to see Loki back. It was good to see Thor back. But I think I didn't understand really the full concept behind what was going on with Natalie Portman's character, Jane. So I don't know if maybe that's just me that thinks that the second Thor movie was kind of a bit of a, I don't know if I want to say a botch, but it wasn't exactly one of the more highly favored movies, in all honesty. I think just because the storyline was very confusing, the motivation was not very clear. It just felt like they were kind of all there to battle evil, but in the most non-clear kind of way. I don't know. Am I wrong?
Oh, no. You're 100% correct. I hated Thor Dark World. That was the stupidest movie. It was on TV the other day, and I tried to watch it, and I was like, wow, I forget how bad some of the sequels of the Avenger movies are. Like Thor Dark World is what you're talking about with those weird elf creatures, and Jane's going, this is dark matter. It's like, who cares? I don't care. I don't like it. It was boring. They tried to do, Marvel, I think, a lot of times likes to live and die on comedy. and they really threw in a lot of comedic gestures in that movie that was just awful and uncalled for. Like, they're fighting to the death in one scene. I remember, like Thor hits a window and just, like, rubs against the window, and people are like, whoa, what's that? And then also, like, they do some weird, stupid jokes throughout this epic, or supposedly epic fight scene that it just takes away from the solidarity. And Thor isn't, like, a humorous comic. He's not that humorous. The guy isn't. He's funny because he doesn't understand some of the woes of humanity. So it's like he'll say stuff that you're like, wow, did he just say that? This guy is so arrogant. But, no, that movie was awful. But that raises, I don't know if you're going to say the other sequels and some of the other Avenger movies, but a lot of the sequels were just awful. Like, I tried to watch a few of the other sequels, and I'm like, wow, I forgot how bad these were.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely talk about a couple of the other ones. Don't worry. There's plenty of other ones that we could definitely talk about when it comes to sequels. But with that being said, that does make a bit of a major concern when it comes to Thor Ragnarok, because obviously, I mean, they've got some really good story in there, but I've noticed a lot of comedy moments in there as well, which, begs the question, are we going to basically get a repeat of Thor Dark World? I'm hoping not, because this is going to basically be one of the first movies that starts building up to Infinity War. And if this movie is a bit of a bust, then I think Infinity War is going to be either not give the same credit that it probably deserves, or it's just going to be going, people are just going to go in and it's like, oh, this movie's going to suck.
Yeah, I am not as worried about Thor Ragnarok. Ragnarok, I think Ragnarok in general is a pretty epic storyline. So if they mess this up, it's going to be pretty, like, whoa, like, how could you mess up Ragnarok? I don't know how you did that, but I think, again, we got to go back, like, kind of, like, rewind when Marvel started taking off was when they were introducing the pilot episodes for a lot of these superheroes. And I think they've grown a lot since those original pilots. I think ever since the Avengers movie, the original Avengers movie, they really have kind of, like, amped up the level of commitment to the comic book characters, the level of commitment that the directors have, the likability and just kind of character personalities that the actors have grown on, and the ability that they have to tell the story and the funds are just there now. So I'm not worried about Ragnarok as much because of Thor Dark World, but I'm hoping that they went past Thor Dark World. Because I don't even watch that anymore. I literally can't watch it. It's not good.
It's just one of those movies that kind of makes you just kind of cry on the inside and just think, oh, Marvel, you've done so much good stuff. Why? Just why? That's really all you have to say when it comes to that movie.
Yeah, hit and misses. And the Thor character in general, like, even the original Thor, I didn't really connect with the storyline as much. And I know that Thor is kind of a character that is hard to connect with because he is a god and he's from a different, like, universe and plane and everything. So you're like, how do we make him connect with the world around him? And in the comic books, they really make him an advocate for, like, humanity, not humanity really, but the Earth. And like, he's always out there, like, saving the planet, like, saving the whales, saving, like, the environment. So then you're like, oh, like, he's kind of like this hippie superhero. It's kind of cool. It's funny. It was in the times of where the hippies, were really taking, grasp of pop culture. But they haven't really done anything like that with him in the movies. So he seems more of, like, this arrogant guy who just has all these really cool powers. And you can't really judge his level of power. Like, I can't really judge it as well as you can judge, like, a Captain America and an Iron Man, because, one time he doesn't. I don't, like, does he die that way? Could he die like that? I don't know. So I feel like the Marvel Universe, the movie entertainment side, the movies need to really define who Thor is. And I feel like Ragnarok is going to kind of tell us about that because it does show death and despair within Odin. So maybe people will connect with Thor on a better level, more humane level.
Well, we can only hope. Side note, you mentioned, Thor kind of almost being like a little bit of a hippie deal. Now that you said that, I would really love it if they would have had a scene where Thor and Tommy Chung would have just made up, and Tommy Chung would have just said like, "Oh, cool costume, man," and just Thor would just be like, "This is a royal garbage. You can't disperse me." And Tommy Chung just walks away. He's like, "Okay, whatever, dude." Just be like, it's like I would at least pay to just see that moment, even though it might be one of those things where people just roll their eyes like, whatever. They threw Tommy Chung in there for no reason. It's like, dude, this is awesome. This is Leo from that '70s show just doing something funny. Just let me have this one. Yeah, let me just have this one moment. But yeah, I'm hoping that they do kind of, as you said, set like the record straight when it comes to Thor. What are his strengths? What are his weaknesses? Because it does seem like they're kind of wishy-washy on the whole subject. Like you said, it really does annoy people when it's like, oh, well, they can bleed on this moment, but when it comes to getting hit by this, they're completely fine, no problem. It's like, just make up your minds, people. It's not that hard. It's not rocket science to just realize that, hey, you can punch the face, and if you're bleeding, then it's going to happen again. Not one of those things where it's like, oh, his nose gets stronger. It's like, no, it's not always the case. If anything, the nose is probably more likely to get, easily broken next time. It's like with the concussion. You get your first concussion, you're more likely easily, more receptive to get another concussion. It's basic. It's basic. It's not rocket science. Like I said, it's basic common sense, really.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would like that.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. So we go on from Thor to one of, I think, the main leads when it comes to the Avengers, that being Iron Man. Again, first movie, really good. Second movie with Mickey Rourke as the villain. I thought that the Mickey Rourke villain was good, but I think, again, it was just one of those stories where it really kind of lost, I think a lot of people kind of lost people to what the point of the movie was. I don't know if I really fully comprehended. Maybe that's just me. It's just one of those things where I tried getting into it, and it was like, okay, so he's more struggling with personal life, or is he struggling with trying to beat this guy? I don't know. I had a hard time really getting into it. And the same thing could be said for Iron Man 3, which a lot of people definitely thought was better. But I think there was just so much going on where it was just like, oh, okay. I mean, the final fight scene was really cool, where he had like 5 or 6 suits ready to go, and if one suit was broken, then he could just be like, oh, I got another suit ready to go, another suit ready to go. Other than that, Iron Man 3, still a little bit more confusing. But I don't know. What did you think of the Iron Man series?
That was literally the other one I was talking about when I said the pilots were great, and then the sequels. I am 110% on your train of thought with Iron Man 2 and 3 were just kind of, I feel like, lazy. Like, they were like, sure, well, let's throw in this villain, let's do this. And it just wasn't that, they just weren't epic to me. And I know not every movie can be epic, but it's like, you can make the superhero storyline really good. I'm going to be honest with you, I hardly even remember Iron Man 2. That's how much I have not watched it. Like, I think I watched it once and I was like, yeah, sure. But I feel like I almost wanted to watch those movies to get to the next movie. If you know what I'm talking about, like, you're like,
yeah.
Oh, Iron Man's introduced and Captain America and Thor, and they're not going to reboot Hulk because they tried that so many times and it just sucks. So it's like, okay, I just want them to do enough so they introduce me to the Avengers, because that's what I want. So I feel like that's what made those movies acceptable, was like, oh, the end credits show